right, welcome back to another early adopter edition. And in this one, we're going to talk about matrix specification overlays. I told you I was going to do that in the last episode where we went through matrix specifications, and we want to talk about overlays. So let's get started. So in our project here, we've created two matrix specifications. And the first one we're going to cover is called first overlay. And as you remember, I told you there's three ways to extend an element. One is stereotype. What kind of thing is this? And you can see the stereotype here. This thing is a matrix specification. Then we talked about tag values. And this basically is what additional information do I need? And that's what we're going to talk about in this video using overlays. And then constraints, we did a video on that, and that's what rules we must follow. Let's go ahead and open up this first one, first overlay, double click it, and we are now in a matrix specification. I can't zoom on this, so I'll zoom in on the camera and we'll take a look at this. So as you remember in the last one, basically you're choosing your source namespace, and we're using this block diagram. We have some simple elements that are in here to use, and for our target, we're using the same namespace, block diagram, and that basically is a very simple block diagram using class elements, generic names just to represent each one of them. In this block diagram, we have associations. We can double click in association type connector between each one of these. So this is directional, source to target. This is bidirectional, directional, directional, directional. So when we're looking at the relationship matrix, we have it set source to target. And you can see the directional arrows from the source to the target, and they happen to be the same elements in this specification. So if we were to look at target to source, we can see the target to source from particular elements. And if we were to look at both, you'll get a model that basically looks like this, representing your connectivity in your class elements. But our default is source to target. We're using the type association. That's what we're filtering by. We have all types, so there's only class elements that are in here, so that doesn't matter. Otherwise, as you've learned in the previous video, you can look at specific types when you're defining or configuring your matrix specification. So let's talk about overlays. So this is a blank project, overlays. By default, it has one, and that's from EA Extended for CRUD, create, read, update, delete. Let's go ahead and select it, and then let's hit refresh. I don't see anything in here as far as an overlay yet in my block diagram. If I look at the properties for tag values, and let me move this out here, I'm able to see, well, wait a minute, I have a tag value for CRUD. Why isn't this showing up in using EA's extended CRUD? So what we're going to do is create our own CRUD overlay. So before we get started, let's go to settings. Let's go to reference data panel. Let's go to UML types, tag values. And you can see there's no tag values defined. This is blank. Let's go ahead and close this. And let's define or create an overlay. So new overlay. And we're going to do this for CRUD. So we're going to call it CRUD. And you're going to put the values in here. And we're just going to use all caps, not separated. Just put in CRUD and watch what happens. Be sure to leave mutually exclusive checked. And if you want to know more about that, just select help and it will tell you. All right, so we want it to be mutually exclusive. And now what's interesting is let's refresh. You can see it didn't need to refresh, it automatically picked it up. Now we're exposing the overlay. R for responsible, C for consulted, U for what does U mean? And so you're able to go in to the elements, the relationships, let's just double click on the U. And then let's go to tags. What does U stand for? And then when I'm looking at this, it doesn't tell me what U stands for. And of course it's update. CRUD is create, read, update, and delete. And what we want to do here is understand, or we're going to make some changes to the details that Sparx auto-generated and define what the acronyms mean in our overlay next. So first, let's create each one of these in a new line after the semicolon. So this is your type, it's enumeration, your values are CRUD, and then after this semicolon, let's make another line. Very important to put in for matrix overlays that it's matrix, no space, overlay equals true. And then down here, we're going to describe what our acronyms mean. So we're going to basically type those out, or from your documentation, come in and just copy paste them. So you can see this ends with a semicolon. So anything after it is freeform. And we're not using any more keywords in here, so it should work. Let's go ahead and hit C to save. And now when we look at it, these are our new details in this update. Let's go ahead and close this. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. And let's refresh, and everything's working fine. And I'm able again to go to properties, and I can select this to look at the tag values that are available. And now it's defined. So folks understand what U means, update, and they can go through and further identify the intelligence within their associations from a CRUD perspective, what each one of these associations, these relationships are doing. Let's create another one in relationships. I'm going to go ahead and close this one and go back to our cover page. I usually inventory our matrix specifications in their own namespace across the project. We're going to go into the second overlay for this demonstration. And in this particular case, we're using the source roles. These are where our actors are. Most likely this is going to be in a use case namespace. And then the target is going to be our block diagram. And that's in this namespace here. The type we're looking for in roles is actor. And the type that we're looking for in our block diagram are class elements. So we're filtering those out. The type link between source and target is association, and the direction is source to target. Source being our actors, target being whatever our class elements are. Could be applications, could be UI components, etc. Right? So we don't have an overlay for this. We're going to create another overlay. And what this one is going to be for is RACI, responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new overlay. And we don't have this one yet defined. And we're just going to call this RACI. You could certainly call it RACI overlay or RACI tag values. We're just going to call it RACI, R-A-C-I. And we're going to do the same here because Sparx is going to separate these acronyms, these single letters with a comma for us. Again, we want these to be mutually exclusive, each one of them, and we're going to hit OK. So then when we come over and we look at tag values and go in here, now Sparx has created a matrix overlay for RACI, and each acronym is comma separated. And again, we can separate these things out. So the type is enumeration. The values are the acronyms that we're calling for. Notice that I have the semicolon. I put the return on the wrong thing, so don't make that mistake. This keyword here, matrix overview equals true. And what we want to do is come in here and define, well, what does RACI mean? And we'll go ahead right now while we're in here and just type in what each one of these means. And we're going to hit save. And then we'll go ahead and close this here. So Now, when I'm looking at this model, there's no diagram for it. I'm actually doing all of the connectivity using the matrix specification. I've already defined what this association is from actor 1 to class 1. I've stated that actor 1 uses class 1 to conduct business. And they're consulted from the target in what their roles and responsibilities are. So consulted, but I don't have any tag values for this. So what I want to make sure is that I'm on the association. There is nothing in here. I'm going to go, what tag values are available? And now I have RACI, and I'm going, oh, wait, okay, this is telling me. So we're going to apply these acronyms to our connectivity so that we can apply our RACI overlay to our matrix specification. Now, parenthetically, when I was telling my story, I wanted to make sure in my nouns and my verbs that I put consulted. That is their role and responsibility between these two elements. And so while I'm on this, I'm going to add a tag value for what? RACI. I can type in lowercase. It'll figure it out for me. And look at that. I go to the drop down. They are consulted. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And it's not showing up. Let me refresh. And there we go. Now, during my analysis, I'm going to go to actor 2 to class 2. I stated when I was telling my story that actor 2 is responsible for maintaining class 2 necessary to support actor 1. So again, I'm going to go to tags. I'm going to go to association because that's what I'm focused on. I'm going to add another RACI. Now, you've seen in this channel that I can create scripts that automatically do all of this stuff for you. But in this case, they are responsible. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to refresh. And there we go. Now in my overlay, I can see that actor 2 is responsible for class 2. And as far as my intelligence go, I'm telling a story of why I believe or what I've identified as far as what their role or responsibility is. So very quickly, I can go through the connectivity based on the filters that I have here, and I can apply them. And so now I can very clearly see actor 1's role and responsibility all the way down to actor 5. And I'm using the RACI overlay. If I use the CRUD, there are no CRUD tag values between actor 1 and actor 2, and I can certainly come through and do that as well if I wanted to tell my story that actor 1 is creating or updating or doing something from a CRUD perspective to a target element. But let's go back to RACI and wrap up. Let's go back to our block diagram here. And let's bring in our actors. We're going to shift as we select actor 1, go down to actor 5. We got all of them selected. We're going to drag and drop these in as links selected for all. And it's going to bring the actors in. And based on what we did, those actors now are showing their connectivity to various elements from a roles and responsibilities perspective. We have namespaces turned on, so it's saying, hey, this actor element is from the roles namespace. And so each one of these have been clearly managed. If we select this one element, we go to properties. Let's just bring properties out here. You can see that each one of them, let me do something here. Let me make this a little taller. I can go to each one of these and I can see what has been added to each one of the elements. Now I want to show you something in this association between these class elements. We have a CRUD tag value. And in this case, when they were doing RACI outside of the overlay, they were fully typing out what was available. This is before the tag values was defined. If I hit the drop down, it'll tell me, well, previously they used the full word accountable, and we did an overlay. I'm going to change each one of these to the acronym using our new tag values, and it will replace those. If I wanted to do that, I could certainly do either, but of course you're going to have a unique name for each tag value. In our block diagram, let's go back to our first overlay. It's loading it for us. Here, we're using CRUD. There's our CRUD overlay applied. Let's go to our RACI overlay for the diagram. So if you can see the difference between using, I'll just double click on each one and make them wider. Here, using the acronym versus using the full word, that doesn't apply to the overlay. I mean, there's a lot of extra work that you need to do. So you can double click in here if you want to change them, and you can say accountable. You can go ahead and change that. We'll go ahead and change this to accountable. Tag values. This one is A for accountable. And this one's responsible. We'll go to tags, responsible, R. There we go. And then we're going to hit refresh. There we go. So now our overlay, if we want, is applied to our block diagram matrix, or what we were referring to as our first overlay. All right, we're going to wrap up now. So that's overlays using the matrix specification. Extremely powerful, isn't it? You're able to go through and look at your various matrices and apply your overlays to tell your story between elements that are in your diagram and so much more. Makes it a lot easier during analysis. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Please post comments down below if you have any questions or concern or want to provide some feedback. Do you use matrix specifications? Do you use or take advantage of overlays to create your tagged values? And so let me know, and maybe we'll do more on this as we're going forward, but you have so many tools that are available to support your analysis and your brainstorming and everything else that's going on. You can do this for almost any element in Sparx. Later sessions, we're going to do a mind map overlay. We're going to do, this is especially powerful, by the way, for requirements analysis, where you're showing your elements, your applications, your interfaces, UI components that are being realized by requirements. Overlays and the matrix specification is an extremely effective and powerful way of telling your story in your solution and your design. So until that next episode, happy modeling.